So it's Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim Lefonav Al Esav Achiv Atzoseirs Dei Edom Vayitzav Oisam Lemor. He tells these messengers, Chazal say it's Malachim Mamish, that they should tell Esav, Koi Soimru La'adoni LaEsav, Koi Omar Avdecha Yaakov Im Lovon Garti Va'echar Adot. Vayihili Shor v'chamor tzoin ve'eved v'shivcha ve'eshlecha lahagid la'adoni limtzoi chen beinecha. It's not at all clear how this message is supposed to accomplish finding favor in Esav's eyes. All he's saying is im love on Garti v'eichar adota v'yihili shor v'chamor tzoin ve'eved v'shivcha. How is this limtzoi chen beinecha? You know, what's shor v'chamor? Rashi says that shor v'chamor doesn't just mean one shor and one chamor, but be'emes means many. But derech eretz loymar al shvorim harbe shor. That even though he means oxen, he says an ox, because that's the way of the world. That's how people talk. So vayhili shor v'chamor just means I have shvorim and chamor. However, in the Midrash Rabbah, it says, "Vayehi li shor v'chamor shor ze Yosef." Shenemar, the pasuk says in V'zois habracha, "B'chor shoroi hodor loy," and chamor ze Yisachar, as it says in Parshas Vayechi, Yisachar chamor gorem. No. And now for sure we don't understand what is the message. I mean, he's sending this important message to Esav. Limtzoi chen. He's telling him that, I have Yosef and Yisachar, if you were wondering. Now, this whole, the difference of opinion, to say the least, between Yaakov and Esav, the quarrel between Yaakov and Esav has to do with the roots are even before they were born. Vayisroitetzu habonim bekirba. It's an argument about the bechira. It's an argument about misroitetzim zeim ze umeirivim benachal hashnei olamos. So this va'eshlecha lahagid la'adoni limtzoi chen beinecha is somehow about ironing out the differences between them and about the Bechorah and the Brachas. So it would seem that somehow Yosef, the Shor, and Yisachar, the Chamor, are connected with this issue of the Bechorah and the Brachos. But how are they connected? First of all, the common denominator maybe that these two Shvatim have, Yisachar and Yosef, is that their birth is somehow related to the Dudoim. Why do I say that? Yisachar is obvious because Sochar Secharticha B'Dudoi B'neich. Leah got Yaakov to be with her by giving the Dudoim that Ruvain, her son, brought her to Rachel. And Mamela Yaakov, and that's when they had Yisachar. So Yisachar came about through the Dudoim. Sachar secharticha b'dudoi b'neif. How is Yosef's birth related to the Dudoim? That could be, according to what the Ramban says, that the reason that Rachel wanted the Dudoim is because they're mesugolim lehiroyoim. So she taka had the Dudoim, and eventually vayiftach Hashem esrachamo. So both the birth of Yisachar and the birth of Yosef are related to the Dudoim. Now, in Parshas Bamidbar, it says, Ish al digloi ba'oisois labeis avoisom yachanu b'nei Yisrael. So they had a digloi. The Midrash says, ba'oisois, Simonim hoyu l'chol nasi v'nasi. Every nasi had a symbol. Mappa, a cloth. V'tzeva al kol mappa o mappa. They had a cloth with a certain color. And which color was it? V'tzeva shel avonim toivoi shehoyu al liboy shel Aaron. Mehem lomda hamalchus liois oisin mapa v'tzebelcho mapo mapo. That the Medrash says that the malchiyos that have flags, they learned it from the Shvatim who had a mappa that was colored in the color that their even on the Choshen was. And the Midrash says, Ruvain avnoi oidem. So he had a red stone. Umappa shaloi tzavua odoim. The entire mappa was colored red. Umitzuyor olav dudoim. So the symbol of Shevet Ruvain was the dudoim. Now, it's interesting because Ruvain found these dudoim basoda. So happens, like the Gemara says, he so happened to find it. How did these dudoim become so important and so central to Ruvain that when we want a symbol for Ruvain, it's the dudoim? True that through these dudoim, let's say, two Shvatim came about, Yosef and Yisachar, but the role of Ruvain in these dudoim was just that he found them and he brought them to his mother. So why is this something so important that the dudoim are on his flag? And is it or is it not connected with the fact that his flag is Odoim? The Nusach of the Medrash would sound that the fact that his flag is Odoim and Mitzuyur Olav Dudoim are connected. How is that? So on the pasuk Vatoimer, when Leah said to Yaakov, Vatoimer Elai Tovoi, Ki Sochar Secharticha Bedudoi Bni. State in the Medrash, Omar Rabbi Levi, Boyu Re'ei, Ma Yofa Hoisa Sarsurosam Shel Dudoim. That the business of the Dudoim was so beautiful. Come and see. Kama Yofa Hoisa Sarsurosam Shel Dudoim Lefnei Misha Omar V'Hoyoil. Shal Yidei Dudoim Omdu Shnei Shvatim Gedolim BeYisrael. Yisachar uZvulun. We said Yisachar and Yosef. The Medrash says Yisachar and Zvulun. Yisachar Yosef v'Oisek b'Torah, uZvulun Yosef b'Yamim, u'Ba v'Noisein l'toich piv shel Yisachar v'HaTorah Rabba b'Yisrael. HaDudoim nosnu reach. The Dudoim gave off a good scent, and what is that? That Yisachar and Zvulun came about through the Dudoim. How is the birth of Zvulun related to the Dudoim? Mistama, because it says by Leah, Vatamoid Miledes. And then it says, when Leah saw Kiyomda Miledes. So, but she started giving birth again through the Asik of the Dudoim, which brought about the Leda of Yisachar. It seems like the Leda of Zvulun that followed had to do with breaking that Vatamoid Miledes, which happened through the Dudoim. So therefore, the Medrash attributes both the Leda of Yisachar and Zvulun to the Dudoim. And as it says earlier in the Medrash, Amar Bavo, Sofa HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shaloi Hoisa Kavanosa Ela L'Shem Shamayim, L'Hamid Shvatim, L'Ficha Chutz Shechai Kosuv, Loimar, Vayishma L'Kim Eleya. Okay, so over here we're saying the Dudoim Nosnu Reach really is about the fact that she gave up the Dudoim. She gave up the Dudoim. She gave it to Rachel. It's not the schus of Ruvain that brings about the birth of Yisachar and Zvulun, but the giving up of the Dudoim by Leah. So we still don't understand how the Dudoim became something that symbolizes Ruvain. On the pasuk Vatikra Shmoi Ruvain, Rashi says, Rabbi Seinu Pirshu Amra Ru'u Ma Bein Beni LeBen Chami. Look at the difference between my son and the son of my father-in-law. In other words, the son of Esav. Why is she making this statement? B'stama, it has to do with the fact that we know, like the Gemara says in Baba Basra, Shahoyu Hakoil Oimrim Shnei Bonim LeRivke Ushtei Bonis LeLavan Hagdoilo Lagoda, which means that Leah was going to marry Esav, Vaktana Lakot, and Rachel was going to marry Yaakov. So she expected to have to marry Esav. In the Bereshis Rabbah, it says, Omar Avone, Kosho hi hatfilo, shebitlo es ha'gzeira. Tefillah is so strong, it undid the gzeira. V'lo oid elo shekodmo la'achoisa. She even married Yaakov before Leah. So it means that, so it's mavur over here that it's not just that people said, Hagdoilo legodol v'haktana lekotin, but it was actually meant to be so. And it's only through Tefillah that this was changed and she married Yaakov. Therefore, when she had a son with Yaakov, Reuven, she said, Ruhu, ma bein beni leben chami. Look at the difference between my bechor that I just gave birth to and my father-in-law's bechor, whom I was meant to marry. And thank God I didn't marry him, and I have a bechor like Reuven. Now, Reuven is avnoi odoim umapes shaloi tzavua odoim. Now, why is that? Because ha'odom hazeh is the siman of Vayetze Harishon Admoini. That's Be'emes represents Esav. Red represents Esav. So we see that there is something that Ruvain and Esav have in common. I mean, he's the Odom hazeh. He's Edom. And Ruvain, his mappa is Tzavua Odom. However, by Ruvain, it's Mitzuyer of Dudon. And that brings out the difference between the Beni and the Ben Chami. Why is that? Because the Pasuk says, Vayelech Ruvain b'yemei ktsir chitim vayimtzo dudoim basod. Zokt Rashi, lahagid shivchon shel shvot. Shas hakotzir hoyo. V'loi poshat yodoi begezel lohavi chitim usoirim, elo Dovar ha'hefker she'ein odom makpid boy. So we find that Yitzchak Avinu, asked Esav v'tzudo litzayit, and Rashi says min ha'hefker v'loy min ha'gezel. But nevertheless, it says vayelech Esav ha'sodeh lo tzutzayit lahavi, zokt Rashi mahu lehavi, im lo yimtzo tzayit yovi min ha'gezel. So you see that in the Vayimtzo Dudoim Basoda that it says by Ruvain, that was Min HaHefker V'loy Min HaGezel, that expresses the difference between the Bni and the Ben Chami. The Ben Chami, if he doesn't find Min HaHefker, he takes Min HaGezel, whereas the Bni, he only brings Dudoim. It's a Shas HaKotzer. There's a lot available, but he goes for the Dudoim that are Hefker. And therefore, that's the idea of Mape Shaloi Tzavua Odoim Umetzuyer of Dudoim. In other words, he does have character traits in common with Esav. However, he doesn't go for the Gezel, and he overcomes that, and he brings only Mina Hefker. So now we can understand why it's through these Dudoim were born, as the Medrash says, Yisachar and Zvulun. Hadudoim nosnu reach. And that's based on what it says in the Shloah Kodesh and many others, that the fact that Yitzchak Avinu wanted to give the brachas to Esav is because lechatchila, the mission of Yaakov was to be just an ishtam, yoshev oholim. He was meant to be Purush from this worldly things, and his entire Asik should be only in Mili Dishmaya. The mission of Esav was to be a Ishyoidei Atzayidish Sode. He should be Oisik in Yonei Ha'olam Hazeh L'Shem Shamayim B'chol Drochecha De'eu, and he should be supporting, facilitating Yaakov Avinu's learning. That together they will bring about the shleimus. It says Vayav, and that's why says the Shloah Kodesh, Yaakov Yitzchak Avinu wanted to give the blessings of V'yitin L'chol V'kim Yital Hashamayim U'Mishmanei Oretz. He wanted to give that bracha to Esav, who's a man of the world, and that's his mission, and not to Yaakov, who's the Ishtam Yoshev Oholim. Vayavoid Yaakov berachel sheva shonim, it says. And then it says, Vayihi ba'erev, vayikech es Leah bitoy, vayove yoisa elov, and vayihi ba'boike v'hine hileah. Last week's Parsha. So the Medrash says, V'chol ahu le'elye havetzavach lo Rachel. Yaakov Avinu was calling her name Rachel. Tzavach, I don't know why it was Tzavach. Rachel, and she answers, V'hi anyalei. So, but she was really Leah. So in the morning, when he sees that she's Leah, he said to her, Ramyosa bas Ramah. You're a Ramois, the daughter of a Ramai. Lav Bilel Yahave Karina Rachel Va'aton Isli. Wasn't I calling you Rachel and you were responding? Amralei, Loikach Havet Sovach Lochavuch, Esav, Va'aton Isli. When you came to get the brachas, he said, who are you? And he said, are you Esav? And you said, yes. So, what's the pshat? So it says in the Avodas Yisrael from the Koshnetz Magid and others that what she's saying is that as long as you, Yaakov, are answering to the name Esav, why are you doing that? Why are you saying Anoichi Esav bincha b'choyrecha? That's because Esav was meant to be the Ish Sodeh, the Ish Yodei Atzayid Ish Sodeh, but he was Mekalkal Maisav, and therefore you took over his role also. And therefore you said, Anoichi Esav bincha b'chayrecha. And that's why you have the b'chayre and the bracha. No, so now you, Yaakov, became the Ish Sodeh. So you're wearing two hats. Yaakov Avinu is now wearing the Yaakov hat and the Esav hat. In as much as you are wearing also the Esav hat, so I'm also wearing the Leah hat, because Leah is meant to be the wife of Esav. But if you're Esav, I'm Leah. So, it says, Vayova Yaakov min hasada ba'erev v'teitzei Leah likrosei v'toimer elai tovei kisocher secharticha. So, all of a sudden, Vayova Yaakov min hasada. What is he doing in the sada? Yaakov is the Ish Tam Yoshev Ha'olim. Esav is the Ish Sada. So we see that after he bought the Bechorah and he became Ani Esav bincha b'chorecha, so the Avodas Hasada became part of Yaakov Avinu's tafkid, and therefore Vayova Yaakov min hasada. And the Dudoya Hefker of Ruvain, they actually show that the marriage of Leah to Yaakov is correct. Ru'u ma bein beni leben chami. That she is being ma'amid toilodos with Yaakov Avinu that conduct themselves in the Sada properly. In other words, that's really the Avodah that was meant to be Esav's Avodah, to conduct himself in the Sada properly. And she has that son from Yaakov. Leah has that son from Yaakov, and that son is Ru'uma ben Benila ben Chami. He brings only Minha Hefker. So now both avodas, the avodah of Yoshev Aholim and the avodah of Ish Sada, are both in the base Yaakov, and therefore mitoich these dudoim are born Yisachar and Zvulun, because Yisachar, he represents the Ish Tam Yoshev Aholim, and Zvulun represents the Ish Yodei Atzayid Ish Sada. He's now fulfilling that role that Esav was meant to fill. He's the Beni that replaces the Ben Chami. And therefore, now, like Rashi says in Parshas Vayishlach Bracha, smach on the pasuk, smach Zvulun b'tzei secha v'Yisachar ba'ohalecha. Yisachar u'Zvulun, also shutfes b'neim. Zvulun l'chayf yamim yishkoin v'yoytzel l'prakmatya b'sfinois u'mestakev v'yoytzel l'prakmatya Yisachar v'heim yoshim v'yiskim b'torah. So these two shvatim, they are mekayim the shutfes that was meant to be between Yaakov and Esav. Now, Rachel was the Ketana L'Kotten. She was l'chatzchila meant to marry, to be the Ezek Kenegdo of the Ish Tam Yoshev Aholim. She wasn't shaykh to the avodah of Ish Sada. But it could be that by eating the dudoim that are Masugel L'Hiroyoin, which were the dudoi hefker that represent the Ru'u Ma Bein Beni LeBen Chami, so through that, Rachel also attached herself to the avodah of Ish Sodeh, and therefore from this pregnancy was born Yosef, about whom it says, B'chor Shoyroi Hador Loi. Shoyroi is like the Gemara says in Bava Kama, Shor Lerid Yokoi. A shor is for Charisha. That's the avodas hasoda. Like the Gemara says in Shabbos, Kuf Yud Ches, Me'olam loy karasi l'shoiri shoiri elo sodi. Rashi says, shoiri sodi, shehu ikar shel soda. L'ksiv rav tvois bekoyach shor. And as we find by Yosef, v'nosoi noisoi al kol eretz Mitzrayim, hu ashala tu amashbe l'chol amoretz, v'yiken Yosef es kol admas Mitzrayim l'faroi, hey lochem zera. Yosef occupies himself with the avodah of Ish Sodeh, and he's born through these dudoim that represents the Ma Ben B'ni LeBen Chami, that express the idea that now both avodas are in the base Yaakov. So Yaakov Avinu says, "Vayihili shor v'chamor." Shor ze Yosef, v'chamor ze Yisachar. These two bonim show that Esav did not fulfill his mission as an Ish Sodeh, and therefore both the avodah of Ish Tam Yosef Aholim and the avodah of Ish Sodeh, Nachlas Shnei Olamim, are in the hands of Yaakov, and that's why Koi Soimrun La'achi La'esav, that Vayihi Li Shor V'Chamor, that I wear both hats now, and therefore the Bechorah and the Brachas are shayach to me. It says, "V'hu nar as b'nei Bilav as b'nei Zilpa," about Yosef. Rashi says, "Shehoya oisa ma'isa narus mesalsel b'sayroi u'memashmish be'einav k'dei she'ei nira Yosef." Avada, this anhaga has no mokim in the avodah of an Ish Tam Yosef Aholim, and therefore the brothers didn't understand, and they hisiu atzmam min ha'achva, as I'll say, and vayisnaklu oisa la'amisoi. However, Reuven, the Baal HaDudoin, he knows that the avodah of Ish Sodeh is now also in the hands of the Zera Yaakov. And Yosef's particular mission is Eidus b'Yahoisef Samoi b'Tzeisoi al Eretz Mitzrayim, to be Mekadesh Shem Shomayim ba'olam. And that's Mechayev attention also to the Chitzonius, Sheyehi Nirei Yofeh. As the Rambam says in Hilchos Malachim, L'gabi Melech Melech b'Yofyoi Techzena Einecha. And therefore, Vayishma Reuven, Vayatzileo Miyodam. Reuven protects Yosef. He understands the mission of Yosef. Now, you know that there's a famous medrash. Yeah, Hadudoim Nosnu Reach, Valpsochenu Kol Megodim, Hadudoim Nosnu Reach, Ze Reuven Shehitzel Es Yosef. Valpsochenu Kol Megodim, Elu Neres Chaneke Shemadlikim Al Apsoch. So what's the connection? But according to what we're saying, the saving of Yosef is an asinas reach of the Dudoim, because the mitzvah of the Dudoi Hefker through Reuven is about being mesaken the kilkul of Esav in the avodah of Ish Sodeh. Esav was lo yovi min hatzayid, yovi min hagezel. Mashen kein Reuven brings only the Dudoi Hefker. And that's the tikkun of the avodah of Ish Sodeh, which is now in the hands of Zera Yaakov. And that's why he saves Yosef. And that's connected. So that's why it's Hadudoim Nosnu Reach is Reuven Sheitzel Es Yosef. And that's why that's connected with Neres Chanukah Shemadlikim Al Apsochim. Because the Gemara, the Chazal say, the Yevonim said to the Yidden, Kisvu lochem al keren hashor, she'ein lochem chelik be'elokei Yisro. What does that mean? Could be that they said the shor, which is Laridjakoi, that's shaykh to the Ish Sodeh of the Ish Yoidei Atzayid Ish Sodeh. Therefore, in life, in the secular domain, it's Ein Lochem Chelik Be'elokei Yisro. Zera Yaakov are only shaykh to the avodah of Ish Tam Yosef Aholim. And it could be that therefore, when Govra, Malchus, Beis, Chashmoi, Noi, V'nitzchum, Zog the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Hiskinu Shiu Koisvim Shem Shamayim B'Shtoros, in order to emphasize the avodah of Kol Ma'asecha L'Shem Shamayim, that even on the Keren Ashur, we have a Chelik V'Lekei Yisrael. So the Ksiva al Keren Ashur, that the Yevonim said, Kisvu Lachem al Keren Ashur, She'en Lachem Chelik V'Lekei Yisrael, is a kfira in the Indian of Bechor Shorei Hodoloi of Yosef. The Bechor Shorei Hodoloi is about doing the avodah of Ish Sadeh. And therefore, Hadudoim Nasnu Reach is Ruven Shehitzel as Yosef, and that's the Yesod of Al Psochenu Kol Megodim in the Hadlok of Neres Chanukah Al Psochim, when it became a Vurr. That also on the Keren Ashar we have a Chelik Be'Elokei Yisrael. And therefore, the Hadlok is Al Pesach Beisa Mibachutz, that our avodah is not only as an Ishtam Yoshev Aholim within the bias, but it's even Al Pesach Beisa Mibachutz, because we're also in Ish Sadeh, Noisiv and Noisim Be'amunah, etc. Is Mamela, that's Parshas Vayishlach, the story. You know that in Begala Amuchis and Parshas Mikate says that Yosef is Big Matria Melech Yovan. And they're very modern gematria. But I'm saying the Yosef and the Melech Yovan are the Tati the Sasri, because the Melech Yovan says, Kisvu Lachem al Keren Ashur She'en Lachem Chelik V'Lekei Yisrael. And Yosef is the Bechor Shorei Hodoloi. That brings out the he who Hashalit to Amashbir. He's Mefarsim the Shem Shamayim in the world. Okay,